Good day, YouTubers. My name is Jerry, coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. I'm just going to give you a little tidbits on how or what I do as far as, and hopefully it'll help somebody else out and make it a little bit easier. Now, we're talking about Foxbody Mustangs, 302. Of course, people have 302, 351s, 331s, 347 strokers, Coyote motors, and all this other stuff. The first off, what is your budget? What are you trying to do? Where are you at? Let's just, are you just trying to drive the car as a daily? Are you trying to race it everywhere you go? You trying to spend butt ton of money? What are you trying to do? Right now, like for instance, like I got one of my Fox bodies. All I'm trying to do is make it a daily driver, have a little fun with it, make it dependable, reliable, and eventually I'll get another motor transmission put off to the side, turbo system, whatever. But right now, I just want to be able to enjoy the car. It's a cool car. It's not the fastest car in the world. It doesn't have, I'm going to put nitrous and all this other stuff everywhere I go, and I got a lace streak everywhere I go. I'm just trying to make it a daily, dependable, reliable, cool car of when I was growing up with everybody else. And so the first thing I do is I look at what do I have? What do I have? Is it I know that, like, say, for instance, if you have an X303 cam, I want to know the size injectors. I want to know the if it's a 155 liter per hour fuel pump. Do I have a stock fuel pump? What do I have? The intake. Is it GT40, GT40P heads? What is it? Do I have any electrical issues? Am I having voltage issues? These are things that I need to address in order to make it a daily. And everything works. And if it doesn't work, I need to fix those first. But anyway, here's a little story on this car. I get the car, and the previous owner stated that, okay, it just started like misfiring, all these different problems. I go in and, I have all the information on it, but you got to do your history. Well, sometimes you buy a car, you don't get the history, you don't get receipts, you don't get the build, you don't know exactly what you got. The first point of starting off is, what do you have? What is in that motor? What cam do you have? Does it have roller rockers? Is it 1.7, 1.6? What heads do you have? What exhaust system do you have? Have any of the parts been replaced recently? What is going on? What do you have? So my story was, okay, it's popping in the intake. Well, popping in the intake means lean condition. And I even ran down the rabbit hole because I wasn't thinking clearly. Okay, so the first thing I did was I'm thinking fuel pump, fuel supply, timing, something's misfiring, stuff like that, popping in the intake, showing lean condition. And of course, I got friends of mine that are pretty badass at mechanics, and of course they're going to say, hey, either you have a fuel line, it's not supplying fuel, stuff like that. So my first approach was change the fuel pump. Going through the records on this car, it showed 155 liter per hour pump. I go put a stock pump. Symptoms that you will have regardless if you put a brand new pump in it, they look the same shape, same everything, is if you have 155 liter per hour, or just say a 41 gallon per hour, because a lot of people don't want to do the conversions. If you have a 41 gallon per hour and you drop it down to an 18, you are losing over 23 gallons per hour. some people put those in and they only have 19-pound injectors and they think they need all this and that, and you really don't. But in my case, I do need the 41 gallon per hour because I have 24-pound injectors. So if you got 24 pounders and the stock are 19, then the difference is 5 pounds difference each per injector. Now you got 8 injectors. So if you got 5 pounds, difference, and you got 8, do the math. 8 times 5 is 40. So now you have 40 pounds difference, and you need a bigger pump to supply those injectors. When I pulled the old pump out, there was nothing wrong with the pump. It was the hose that crystallized or hardened. So basically, in short, I didn't really need to replace the pump. I just needed to replace the hose. But of course, doing all that work, let me do it all at once. Well, I kept having a lean condition, talked to one of my friends, or a couple friends. Finally, it dawned on me. I feel like an idiot. I just went back, the first thing I should have done is actually bought the proper, swap, you switch them out for what it was. And knowing that the hose was broke down, I should have just replaced the hose and moved on. But if you're doing all that work, I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to put something new. New doesn't always mean better, especially if it's the wrong size. So, or not producing enough gallons per hour to supply the motor in which it was designed. Now, after you replace with the new pump, guess what? Still popping in the intake. I'm still thinking timing. I'm thinking distributor. I knew that the distributor was just replaced. Everybody's talking, well, it's Chinese piece of crap, stuff like that, at LMR, blase, and I kept thinking that, and so I even changed the ICM, and actually got a quality one, and still had the same symptoms of the runnability issues. The computer's trying to adjust. You got idle issues up and down, which of course was also still having problems with the IAC, to try to find balance because it wasn't supplying the fuel and the computer is trying to adjust. And you're going to keep having these problems until you find the right combination. So I go in, I grab the old pump because I didn't throw it away because I knew that the hose was the problem. I throw the old pump in with the new hose and bam, guess what? No more popping in the intake. Duh, I should have known that, like an idiot. Then, with Foxbodies or Mustangs in general, you will have problems. If, depending on the computer that you have, the year, make, and model, if you have a computer 8788, it is very early, and at that time those computers were programmed for 19-pound injectors. Those are stock. When you start getting 88, 89, it's kind of like the hybrid of going into the 90s and 91s, 93s, where the adaptive learning and stuff like that. So the only ones that I was concerned with was I knew that I had 19-pound injectors. So now I got a fuel pump that's supplying the 24-pound injectors, which I have, and with them being 24, I had to be able to, with the computer I got that was already programmed before I got it, I had to make sure that the mass airflow sensor matches the 24-pound in which it was programmed for. And bam, that's what happened. Once I did that, because I went with the year, make, and model of my vehicle, which was not the setup in which it was designed. So basically, in short, I had a computer that was programmed for the 24 pounders, which the stock motor itself was set up for 19. And so when you change, you don't have to change the computer unless it's not set up or programmed or if, all this other stuff. But anyway, long story short, if you have a computer that is set up for 24 pound mass airflow injector, like the mass airflow is rated to regulate for 24 pounders, if the computer's set up for that or it's programmed, and then you've got the mass airflow, depending on your make and model, if the mass airflow is a 19, you will have a flow problem. The computer will try to regulate and change. So you have to match it. You have to make sure that the computer that is programmed, is it for 19? Is it for 24? Is it for bigger injectors? Then, make sure the computer, what is it doing? And then the second thing is, okay, say the computer's set for a 19 and is programmed for 19 pound fuel injectors. You need to make sure your mass airflow is set up for the 19 pound. Now they've got computers that can do 19 and 24, but what I'm trying to get at is mine was already set up for 24. Well, there's only certain year, make, and models that, like Cobras, certain years that are set up for 24. And the computer or the mass airflow that is set up for 24 pound injectors. And in my case, it was the computer was programmed for 24 pounders. I had the wrong fuel pump, which was significantly less fuel supply to the motor, running it too lean, popping in the intake. Then it stops popping in the intake, and the symptoms of having the wrong mass airflow that is communicating with the computer, the symptom is you sit there and try to adjust the timing, and it will automatically have a flow problem, and you'll have surges, you'll have incomplete power bands, you'll have different things, and what will happen is you will have problems. It will be inconsistent, it will not be what you want, the power, and then also if you overtime it because you're trying to compensate for that, then what happens is you'll have pinging in the distributor because you're trying to advance it to make it run, but then you advance it, then you have pinging in there. So what you have to do is match the computer, whatever it is, it 19 or 24 pound fuel injectors, your mass airflow's got to match, or the computer can compensate for both. And then, make sure that your fuel supply everything is good. So once I did that, once I made sure I had 24 pound mass airflow rating for the Foxbody, made sure that the fuel supply was more than enough, and I have my fuel injectors are good with 24 pound fuel injectors, voila, it works. It runs great. You could advance it, you can retard it, you could have it 10, 12, 14, or 16. You can go up to 18, 19, which I wouldn't recommend as a daily because you'll, burn it too lean. And all of a sudden, I got all this power. Still have to make some adjustments on the TPS. Still have to make the adjustments on IAC. You got to go through the relearn procedure and all this other stuff. But it runs like a scolded dog, the way it's supposed to. So before you start throwing parts at it, know what you have. Do they correlate together? talk to people on the forums that know what the hell they're talking about. You know, if you ask a question and someone starts talking about their dog, then maybe I'm not in the wrong forum. You know, don't have people waste your time. If they start talking about everything else and can't give you specifics, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Find somebody, get to know people that know these cars, and a lot of them are older generation. A lot of people start throwing answers out before they even know what the hell they're talking about. They haven't looked it over. But also, it's also your input also. Are you telling them what they need to know and the symptoms and breaking it down? You know, year, make, model, any modifications, what's been done with the computer, what computer do you have? You know, what mass airflow sensor do you have? What year, you know, a lot of times people say year, make, and model, but they don't talk about everything they actually have in it. Therefore, the other people can't help you. So, anyway, hopefully this helps somebody. If you have the wrong mass airflow rating that communicates this with the computer, if you don't have enough fuel supply, your fuel pump's too low, you're gonna have popping in the intake. If you have a mass airflow that's not rated as per the injector size and stuff like that, you're going to have inconsistent and pinging in the distributor, whether you advance it or not. You will have problems. And of course, vacuum leaks, you know, those got to be fixed too. So, but anyway, if you have any questions, drop a line. Maybe I can help you. Good day. Y'all have a wonderful day.